Now, in that sense, we don't behave interdependently at all. That's not how we behave in the context of climate or just about anything else. And that is perhaps, for me, the core dilemma in this particular question. We are dealing with a system which, as a consequence of its systemic characteristics, necessarily passes systemic failure on to everybody. And in the context of that, those who are weakest, those who are most vulnerable, are, by definition, in many cases, disproportionately affected by the consequences of the system. But we don't behave in manners that reflect either an understanding of that level of interdependence, nor in a way that would suggest that we feel interdependent with others. That's our challenge. That's why nobody's very optimistic that we're going to get the sort of results out of Copenhagen which are necessary, we believe, with our current understanding of the science, to avoid catastrophe. Now surely, logically, if we know or believe with our current understanding of the science that we will face catastrophe unless we achieve the limits that we are perfectly capable of defining today, surely then we would be able to reach an agreement. And yet if you go and speak to the people who are most directly involved with those negotiations at the moment, practically nobody is optimistic that we will achieve in Copenhagen in 2009 an agreement that will in fact limit us to 450 parts per million. And I'm leaving out of the equation now James Hansen's article in Nature at the end of April, suggesting that we probably have to get it down to 350 parts per million if we're not going to avoid stochastic disasters. So this is the dilemma. Why do humans behave in a way that is entirely inconsistent with the reality that they are capable of appreciating intellectually? What is it? Why do we think of each other as not being part of the common system that is going to be affected in total as a consequence of our failure to behave intelligently? And this can take us into a much longer debate. I'm just going to scratch the surface of it now just to open it a little bit as one speaking first. The truth of it is that individuals survive because they have very effective means of identifying others. It's two little walnut-shaped things that live here and just at the above the where the spine enters the cortex itself, called the amygdala. And you can produce spikes in the amygdala response that can be measured very easily in almost every experiment that's ever been done, as long as you show somebody a fuzzy black and white picture of mysterious beings that look as though they're very different to the experimental group with whom that's being done. So as a consequence of this, by recognizing the other, we manage our behaviors. Much of human behavior is a function of identifying what constitutes a threat and acting in a manner to prevent that threat materializing. That probably accounts for most xenophobia. It probably accounts for most of our blood is thicker than water instincts. It probably accounts for most of the formation of us, they, or us, them groupings in the totality. That sort of behavior, however, is grotesquely dysfunctional in the context of the systemically interconnected biosphere that David was referring to in the first place. And that fact has implications for what we can reasonably expect, but I think more importantly, it has implications for the way in which we need to phrase policy recommendations and advance policy agendas if we wish to achieve a higher degree of constructive, interdependent behavior as we go forward. I'll stop there and we take it further.
Thank you. That was a very interesting analysis. You know, I'm not a Christian, but one of the powerful parables in the Bible, of course, is of the Good Samaritan, where the stranger comes in and everybody passes him by, kind of the responses you indicated. The powerful message to me of interconnectivity that comes from the environmental movement is that what that means is that everything we do has repercussions, and therefore everything we do carries responsibilities. And I think it's that thing that we're losing sight of, that sense we have a responsibility that goes with what we're doing. Before we get into this any further, why don't we let the other two have their say. Shisu Wang is going to, from the Think Global Consulting, will share a few ideas with us.
Good morning. My name is Shisu. I'm from Think Global Consulting. I'm a Chinese native. And for the last 5 years, I've been stationed in Beijing. Look at my hair, and you might can say that I experienced the good times, bad times, dangerous times, the worst times, and the change of the society, the high growth of the economy, and the pollution and the treatment of pollution, all what is happening in China in the past 30 years or 60 years. The subject of this conference is global warming or global climate change. Since it is global, so everybody is related. So everybody is interconnected without a question. So it is a challenge facing all people living on this planet. To the average Chinese, the interdependence, interconnectedness, or interrelatedness is not a matter, because it is very serious, and you can feel the danger, the side effect of this global warming. And we have talked too much about it. We have done too much research on it. Now it is time to take action. What can we do? Or is it something that other people should do, and I can't do anything about it? Or we people present in this room also have a responsibility and also can contribute to this global effort. So here I would like to share with you my observations in China. One slogan was very attractive to me. I think it's a good slogan. It says, "Take action myself. Take action today." So let's turn rhetoric into action. If we don't do anything, the climate change will continue. Anyway, we don't understand this phenomena 100%. And we don't have a complete strategy. And we have differences, and we have disputes. But that's all very real, that's all natural, but do something today. And in China, three things or efforts are made on three areas. Number one, reduce consumption of energy. Number two, reduce emission. Number three, treatment of pollution. And number one, the reduced consumption of energy is the most challenging task for the Chinese government. We know that climate change does not happen overnight. It is the accumulated effect of industrialization. For the last 300 years, the industrialization consumed more energy than any period in history. The fossil fuel buried underground for hundreds of millions of years, and we are using it up in a matter of few hundred years. So this is a result of the industrialization. The developed countries have already completed this process. And you are in the stage of post-industrialized stage. But on the other hand, the BRIC countries, like China, India, Russia, and Brazil, they are in the middle of this industrialization.